So, tonight's talk is on healthy relationships and healthy sex. Going to be probably the exact opposite talk than last week. I think last week was really mechanistic and everyone was just looking at me cross-eyed a little bit. So, this is going to be out the other way. Way more kind of spiritual, connected talk. So, let's start here. I'd like to start kind of with my story and really, you know, when you do a talk like this, it's like, hey, and you guys all know this, I'm recently divorced. So, it's kind of like, oh, let's talk about healthy relationships. You guys just got divorced. But in all honesty, one of the themes tonight is contrast. And I got to tell you, in the past 3 months, whoa, did I learn more in 3 months about relationship than, you know, any other relationship I've ever been in my life. The people I'm living with, the people that are in this community, I think we're all going through kind of the same transition. And we're really learning about true relationship and what it means. So I think what I want to do tonight is kind of just almost share my own experience and what I've learned over the past 3 months. And it's pretty funny. My father-in-law gave me a book called, I think it's called The Holy Relationship. Is that what it's called, Shane? Yeah. The Holy Relationship. And a lot of the information is from that book. It's the same concepts, the same principles about really connecting with ourselves. That's the ultimate relationship that we can have. So let's start here. What is a relationship, guys? Relationship is not just with people, it's with everything. You can't have life without relationship. Is this box big or small?
Everything.
How about now? Is that box big or small?
Bigger.
Right, we know it's bigger than this, right? I'm a whopping 5 foot 5 inches. Am I tall or am I short? It depends what country I'm in. Right? If I'm in most countries, I'm short, right? But if I'm in a place like Indonesia, the average height there is 5 foot. So I'm pretty tall if I walk around there, right? It's all relationship. It's what defines us. Relationship is important. Contrast is needed. All of life is contrast. Okay? Give you an example. You can't have small without large. You need those two to exist. Without one, the other doesn't exist. Can anyone give me another example?
Good versus bad. Dark and light.
Yeah, how about dark and light? You can't have light without dark.
Good and evil.
Good
Warm and cold.
and evil. Warm and cold. They make each other up. That's what they are. And I think one of the greatest examples I've heard is kind of like what we are, what our spirit is. What we truly are is we are the light. You know, our motto here is what? Shine your light. That's really what we are. And someone once said that, picture yourself, you're like this beautiful bright light, this beautiful candle hanging out in the middle of the sun. Do you know who you are if you're hanging out in the middle of the sun? Can you see yourself? How do you identify with yourself? How do you know who you are then? You have to pull away from the sun and go where? Into the darkness. And that's when you can see really how bright and beautiful you really are. So what is life all about? Is it just about sunshine and rainbows and fun stuff? Yeah. She's like, yeah, that's opposite, right? So do we need the darkness? Absolutely, right? So we are these candles in the sun. So if we understand that, what is good and what is bad?
Contrast.
It's all relative. There's no such thing as bad, you know. A couple of us just did a Native American ceremony, and the Native American chief said to us, dark is just the color. Black is just a color. Just like red, just like white. You know, we fear the darkness. We fear the black. Why do we fear it so much?
It's because it's the unknown. People get scared of the unknown.
Right? Or we call something evil. He also said, hey, in our culture, from the beginning of time in Native American culture, no such thing as evil. Evil doesn't exist. It's all contrast. You have gratitude for everything in your life. When you're in the lowest of the low places, you're grateful. Because that means, guess what? One day you're also going to experience what? The highest of the high as well. You know, in the Tao it says stay in the center of the circle, no matter what's going on, because what happens in life? Life is this. It's a circle of good, bad, good, bad, good, bad when we hang out in our mind, okay? So nothing is good, nothing is bad. A rose is a rose is a rose is an expression in this, meaning you pluck a rose, you look at a rose. Is that a beautiful thing? You smell it, is it beautiful? Who says? Right? Sid Williams, the guy I named my dog after, Laura figured that out today. He was a chiropractic mentor, and this guy was a little crazy. He would just say random stuff out of order, and sometimes you have to listen to his talk like a couple hundred times before you understand something. And he used to tell this joke all the time, and I never understood. I'm like, what's he saying? And now I get it. And he tells this story about how there's a baseball game, and the bases are loaded, and there's 3 balls, 2 strikes in this batter, winning runs at the plate, and the guy throws the last ball, and the catcher catches it, and the umpire just stands up and doesn't say anything. That's it. And everyone's looking at him. And then someone says, well, what is it, a ball or strike? And he said, it ain't nothing until I call it. And I'm like, what does that mean? And now I get it. It's like, if you think about it, that ball is just in the glove, that's all it is. He's the one that has to give meaning to it. If he calls it a strike, it's a strike, game over. He calls it a ball, the guy walks in. Does that make sense? But it doesn't change what actually happened. You look at a rose, who tells us it's beautiful? Right? Did you guys know at one point being really pale was beautiful? Right? The rich would carry umbrellas. They didn't want to get any sun on because it was beautiful to have pale skin. Then who was it? Was it Coco Chevelle or somebody? Came back super tanned up. Completely changed that pattern. Then being tan was beautiful. Right? At one point being plump was actually beautiful. It means you were rich and wealthy. And then now it's like being super thin. Then it goes all in between. It's all relative. It's all relationship. So, what makes something good or bad?
Your interpretation.
Yeah, put it this way. It's called the mind. It's what the human mind does. It's judgment. So with our mind, we sit there and we judge things. Everything that we think is beautiful, we think is beautiful because someone programmed that into us to think that that was beautiful. Everything that we think is bad, it's programmed to think it's bad. You know, it's weird. I used to do this as a kid. I didn't realize how weird it was. But this is a really fun example. Take pain. When you have pain, what do most people think of it as bad, right? But when you really have pain and you just close your eyes and you just feel it, it's just a sensation. I remember as a kid just thinking to myself, why do we not like pain? It's just a sensation, right? So you sit there and you just feel the pain and you go into it and you don't resist it. What happens to the pain?
Goes away.
Yeah, it usually goes away or it transforms or the intensity goes down significantly. Because we're not in our mind about it. Our mind is what's saying, oh, this is bad, this is bad. And as soon as our mind says something is bad, what do? We resist it and we tighten up. And then we don't like that feeling. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, in the Tao, it talks about success and failure. It says both, whether you're going up the ladder or going down the ladder's still shaky. You can fall either way. There's a really cool TED Talk. I recommend everyone watch it. It's called Life is So Easy. It's about this man from Thailand. He was born in a really poor town. He had nothing going on. They just grew vegetables, grew rice, that was it. But he was really happy growing up. Right? And then television came to his town. So what did that provide? Contrast, right? And he had a whole bunch of things flashing, fancy cars and all this stuff, saying, hey, this is what success looks like. Success looks like this. So he went out, he left his hometown, and he spent 8 years going to school, learning all this stuff, working his butt off, working 10-hour days, 12-hour days, and he had nothing to show for it. And after 8 years of being miserable, he said, wow, something's not right. So he went back home, and he just started growing rice. And in 2 months, he grew rice and harvested it. He had enough rice to feed his family for the year, and everything else he sold. So then he had 10 months of extra time on his hands. So he starts taking 15 minutes a day and working on a garden. Then he's got all these extra vegetables that he puts for his family, and then he sells the rest to his neighbors and his friends. And then he learns how to build a house. It took him 3 months, working 2 hours a day, to build his own house. He said it's so easy, he teaches elementary school kids how to do it. Right, so here he is, now he has a house. He said, wow, the person in my school, the best, smartest kid, will buy a house it'll take him 3 months to build it, but it'll take him 30 years to pay it off. Right? He's like, here I am, took me 3 months to build my house, 2 hours a day. He has no payments. He's free. This guy's total free. So here we are in this whole thing about relationship, the mind, which was programmed, and we all have this really bad in the United States, don't we? We have to be rich, we have to be famous, we're all looking for this significance. It's all a program inside of there. It doesn't bring everlasting peace and joy. What we're going to talk about tonight is really the only thing that brings joy. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay. So there's really 2 ways to live. You can live in the world of duality, or you can rise above it and see the game of it all. And that's what the Tao is all about, the Tao Te Ching. Rising above the duality. Stop judging everything as good and bad, right or wrong. Just see it and observe it, and don't put a judgment on it. See it for what it is. It's a really fun way to live, because even when something feels dark, when something feels bad, when something feels wrong, it allows you to breathe into. When I was going through my divorce the first couple of days, whoa, did it feel dark. But thank God I had some of this knowledge to say, wow, what am I supposed to learn? What's the gratitude in this? What's the lesson in this stuff? And wow, did I come back way higher because of it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, how does this have to do with relationships? We have relationships with people. Our relationships with people are our greatest teachers. When I'm interacting with somebody, I see the similarities I have with somebody, and I see the differences I have with somebody. Right? If I'm okay with who I am, and I see somebody different than me, how do I feel about that?
Okay.
You feel great, right? Almost gratitude. Like, wow, isn't it beautiful how unique you are? If I'm not okay with myself and I see somebody different than me, what do? Judge and try to say, hey, they're wrong, I'm right. Right? So let's talk about these relationships. Who do we have relationships with?
Everybody.
Nailed it. About 7 billion people on the planet. The way I like to look at this, I don't know why this visual comes across my mind. You guys ever see the way they draw like a black hole in 3D? It kind of sucks down. The deeper you go, the more energy, the more it's pulling in. So it's kind of like out here is our surface level relationships on this layer. They're not that strong, and we have about 7 billion people. We have with relationships with every single person on the planet. Right? I'm walking down the street, I see people who are taller than me, I see people who are shorter than me, I see people who are fatter than me, I see people who are skinnier than me. I see people who are uglier than me, I don't see too many people who are better than me.
I think you want to say that.
Zing! Got it in there.
There you go.
Now, as we go down, though, we have even stronger relationships, stronger energy with other people. As we go down, maybe about, I think they estimate we know about 250 people or acquaintances. Make sense? People we kind of know, we see them here and there. Maybe we go to the store every day, we see the same person. We have these people, and we care a little bit more what they think, don't we? We have a little bit of stronger energetic tie or attachment to them. Then we get a little bit closer down. And maybe we have about 25 friends. It's different in every circle. Get a little bit closer, and this is family too. You get a little bit closer down. Maybe you have like your 5 closest people. Some of us might be in a relationship with another person, so you have one person who is your significant other. And then finally, you got this bottom layer. This is the holy relationship. The black hole, the most strong energy, the cause of it all. Who's the holy relationship with?
God.
Himself?
So to me, it's the same. God, goddess, if you want, hey, whatever, it's cool. God, goddess, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. It's that thing that's inside of you. Where's the kingdom of heaven?
Inside you.
Within you, right? Not outside of you. The best relationship is the relationship to self, higher self, which is the one thing that I think we ignore the most. I think for some reason we're all becoming more and more aware of that energy inside of us, right? So this holy relationship, the relationship to that indwelling divine wisdom within us, that energy inside of us, is the cause of everything else. If we ignore it, we have no concept of it, we kick it out of our life, how's our relationship with everything else? Distorted. You know, in some spiritual teachings, they say the most important relationship after yourself, guess what the next one is? What's the first relationship you ever form on this planet?
Mother.
Mother and father, your parents. Your mom, your relationship to your mom has everything to do with how you view all of nurturing, all of touching, all of soothing. And with your father, all stability and security. So if you have a bad relationship with your father growing up, how secure do you feel in this world? If you have a bad relationship with your mother, how much do you feel like you want to be coddled by other people? Right? So you can't get beyond to that layer with people until those relationships are healed. It doesn't mean you have to be on speaking terms with your parents. It just means inside you have to heal that relationship. Does that make sense? You heal that relationship, and that would be kind of at this level of a relationship. Everything above it gets fixed, and you feel more and more connected to everything, okay? So, let's do this practice. I want you guys to feel this holy relationship, because we all have it. So I want everyone here just to close your eyes. We're going to do a little exercise called the 49 breaths, just to warm us up. And then I'm going to guide us into just feeling this energy inside of us that's always talking to us. Okay? So, what we're going to do, when I tell you, we're going to take 7 breaths in through our nose, out through our mouths. Okay? Then we're going to rest for a second. And then we're going to do 14 breaths, rest, 14 breaths, rest, 14 breaths, rest. Everyone close your eyes. Let's do 7 breaths. Ready? Begin. And just relax. Let's do 14 breaths. Ready? Begin. And relax. More breaths. Ready? Begin. Relax. More. Ready? Begin. Now relax. Now I want you to feel all the energy leave your head. Feel the vibration in your heart. Feel the energy in your chest. Stay there with the vibration. Feel a thought come up. Just bring your attention back to your chest. Inside your chest, where your heart space is. For the next minute or so, just focus on that vibration. If your mind wanders, go right back to your heart space. You guys are ready? Open your eyes. Anybody feel the energy, the vibration in their heart? Everyone feel how different the room is right now? How much more sacred does the room feel right now? So here's the deal. That's the holy relationship. And this is how simple life is. I'm going to give you an analogy that someone gave me recently that changed my life. Anyone here ever experienced like self-guilt or maybe self-doubt? Like wondering, should I do this? Is this the right move? I don't know if I should do this. Recently, I feel like a month ago I was released from all of that. And the way it was I used to think of the holy relationship like this. God looking down on me, and if I did something wrong, I would be punished in a way. Like, oh, bad karma, I have to feel all this stuff. Anyone experience that ever? So you're afraid to make the wrong move? And she said to me, she's a mother, and she said, look, when I had a child, and there was a candle, I told my child, hey, don't put your hand over that fire. It's going to burn you. The child does not understand that concept. What's the child have to do?
Try it.
Put their hand over that fire. And then after that, they say, whoa, that burns. Are they going to do it again?
No.
Maybe they might. I was a stupid kid. I did it a couple times.
You hope not.
But you burn yourself bad enough, and then what do you say? Whoa.
I'll do something different.
Wow. And then eventually your parents growing up might, and by the way, when you do that, does your mother or your father love you less for you doing that?
No.
They're there to love you still and say, "Oh, I told you not to, but hey, like it's okay. You had to experience that first, right?" And then they might say, "Hey, don't eat this stuff. It's gonna make you sick." And what do? You eat it anyway. And then how do you feel? Ooh, you feel really sick, right? You have to experience it. It's all about relationship. Do your parents love you any less for doing that? What's unconditional love mean? So when you have a relationship with yourself, this is what it's about. Checking in with this energy right now. When you're about to eat something, Sherry, we were just talking about this. When you go to eat something, and you start to fast, you realize this energy is starting to shift. How do we normally make our decisions when we eat? Like our body is just craving it. We don't even think about it. We're not checking in with the holy relationship. We just scarf something down. But once you start fasting, did you guys ever have this experience? You pick something up and it feels heavy, or the vibration feels off. What are you doing? You're checking in with the holy relationship, your higher self. And it's saying, whoa, I don't want that. Now imagine this is how easy life is. You walk around in a constant state of meditation. You know how we just brought consciousness to this energy? Staying in that state all throughout your life. And you start to feel, and you start to say, Everyone had this experience like, oh, I should do this. I don't want to, but I should do it, and you do it. What happens to your energy when you do that? I don't know. Why do we do that? It's a lack of trust in the holy relationship. This is what B.J. Palmer, the founder of chiropractic, was talking about. When you always listen to, he called it innate, your inner wisdom. That energy is guiding you all the time. You follow your enthusiasm. It'll guide you in the right direction. Make sense? Pretty fun, right? Pretty easy, right? So here's the thing. Saying down the hole, the further you go down in the hole, the more energy there is, but there's more pain inside of these relationships as well. This is how we're brought up. The further down we go, if we don't heal this relationship and check in with this constantly, the more attachment we have to this. So here's the problem. Let's say you had a bad relationship with your parents, or some of the closest people in your life. So what do you do then? What you do is you build a wall. And then you say, wow, I'm only going to allow people in at this level now. Make sense? Let's say somebody, like a friend or a family member of yours, somebody up here did the same thing. What do? Hurt you pretty bad? If you don't have a relationship with a holy relationship, you build a wall. And you guys might know people like this who have a wall up around their heart and they don't let anybody in. They don't let anyone close in their life. Right? It's because we allow these people to build walls. We don't have a relationship with ourselves. When we have a relationship with ourselves, who can hurt us? Nobody. Where does our happiness come from? It comes from this relationship only. Do you need somebody else in order to have fulfillment in your life?
No.
This is the only relationship you need. When you're there and you really feel that, which by the way, no one here, I'm not there yet, but I'm better, way better. Does that make sense? When you're there, none of these people can hurt you. So guess what you do? You allow everybody in fully, and you can love deeper than ever before. So let's go a step further into romantic relationships. Okay? That's where it gets a little controversial, I think. Okay. Who here has heard of the triangle analogy? Relationship. So you have yourself over here. You have your partner over here. What's up top? God. Let's put higher self. How's that? You can put God. In your relationship, what are you responsible for?
Yourself.
Yourself. Should we ever be looking this way at your partner? Look, I guess looking energetically. What's our responsibility? This is our only responsibility.
Take care of yourself.
Holy relationship. What's the holy relationship? That's it. It's the only responsibility you have. What's your responsibility of your partner? Is it your partner to kind of tell you how to live and tell you all the stuff you're doing wrong and how to correct you and how bad you are? All the stuff you should be doing?
It's the same.
It's the same. What happens if you both focus on that? How much closer do you get as a partner? You know, you guys all, most of you know Brooke here. We thought we were doing that. Wow, when we separated, it was like, wow. How much did I not check in with my own energy? I never checked in on this. What was my responsibility? I was trying to make her happy. What was she trying to do? Make me happy. It was not, hey, what do I want to do in this moment? What is God telling me to do in this moment? What was it? It was, what does Brooke want to do in this moment? How can I make her happier? What happens when you have, even with great intentions, because we all want to love somebody, that's what we do, but what ends up happening in that relationship? Separation. Right? Not coming together. So it's kind of like a paradox. It's the more you release and the more we focus on the self and taking care of ourself first, it actually brings ourselves closer. Who's heard before, you can't love anyone else until you fully love yourself. Right? And that's what it's all about. So how about this? What if you have an attraction to somebody else? What if you're with somebody else? You're married, let's say, and you have a sexual attraction to somebody else. What should you do?
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Right? Why? This is where it starts to get controversial. It starts to, whoa, what's going on here? You guys know the story of Abraham and Isaac? So, in the Bible or in the Torah, you have Abraham, who, what did God tell him to do with his son? Kill him. Holy relationship. What's his holy relationship to? His son or to God? God. So what he lays his son down, takes the sword, about to stab him, and what does God say? Just kidding. It was a test. You passed it. And again, it's an extreme example, but what are you, like, what's your first relationship? So this is our recommendation. Most people, when you have that relationship or that attraction, what do we do with our spouse? We block it. We keep that energy. And think of it in terms of energy. We don't let that energy move through things. We keep it. Does that make sense? We hide it, we store it, and it stays inside. And what do you think that energy does inside of you? It grows, it builds. And your spouse, every spouse, is super telepathic with you. Right? I mean, everyone knows it. So if you have an attraction to someone, like, oh, you're attracted to that girl, and they're like, no. And they're like, okay, whatever. They know. You know? So this is part of it, is having the guts to go in and say, you know what, I do have that attraction. However, bringing your partner with you along for that ride and being so upfront and in integrity with that person. Not being ashamed of that energy. And you know what happens most of the time? The story of Abraham and Isaac. You go through it, you talk about it, and the energy just dissipates. That's it. It's just energy to move through, and that's it. Okay? Not to be scared of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other thing we try to do is we try to control others unconsciously in relationships. We don't even see it, but it's all about possession. I mean, really, what is a relationship when you say I'm with somebody, other than you're saying, what's the commitment about? What's your commitment when you're with somebody, when you're dating somebody? Anyone in a relationship, like, what's the commitment?
So you're only going to be with each other, you're only going to talk to each other, you're only going to hang out with each other.
So
Well,
why
we
do
have eyes for
why do we
dating.
make those commitments?
Because we're trying to
Control.
control the
Fear.
person.
Right?
We don't want to be alone.
On some level, it's about controlling somebody. I didn't see this until, whoa. It's a fear of like, whoa, that person might be with somebody else. It's my own insecurity. And it's a paradox. The more you release that person and say, hey, you are an individual. You can do whatever you want to do. Your energy is your energy. My energy is my energy. The only thing I care about is this. I use this analogy a lot. It was Jeff Foxworthy's wife was being interviewed. And they said, aren't you worried? Your husband's so famous out on the road. All these women probably like him. And she said, that's not between me and him. So that's between him and God. My relationship's between me and God. So why even worry about your spouse and what your spouse is doing or your partner is doing? It's honestly none of your business. Does that make sense? Sounds harsh, but when you get this concept, the only relationship that matters is the relationship between you and God. That's where you're going to find peace and joy. Okay? Why do we want to change somebody?
Control.
If your partner doesn't have the same habits that you have, the same likes, right? Some people want to change them and say, oh, they don't like dancing. I wish they would like to dance. Right?
Make it more
Is that you guys? I said that you guys are
Aw.
Karen, called you out, Karen. I got you good. Stop trying to get Roy to dance, man. Is that
I'm
right?
the dancer. But
Oh, you're
I
the So why is that?
To make yourself more comfortable
Right?
in your comfort zone with this person.
Every time we try to change somebody else and heal, and by the way, I'm totally guilty of this too, and try to change somebody else, it's because we're insecure of our own beliefs. That's it. And who we are.
think we can. And we delude ourselves that we actually can change them or heal them or something.
Do you guys know how we all heal? There's only one thing that heals us. This holy relationship. It has to be revealed to us from the inside. We have to be inspired, right? So here's the beautiful thing. The only thing that can actually help our spouses, if let's say some of us see our spouses and we see the potential that they have. And that's what we want to do. It's out of love. We want to push them in the right direction. But we can't do that, right? We can only focus on this. So if we're focused on this, we hold the space of unconditional love. And when you just look at somebody with unconditional love, guess what they do? They feel safe to go deeper and deeper into their own holy relationship. And that's what actually heals. That's why love, real love, is what heals everything. So if we keep this concept, not that when we're in a relationship, the whole thing of two become one. It's almost, no, we stay individual. I myself am complete by myself. You all here are complete by yourself. That's it. And the only thing you need to worry about is your connection to your higher self. But by doing that every day, you're probably going to find that one pull That energetic frequency that's so similar to you, that's such your counterpart. But again, if you're focused on attaching and grabbing onto it, it's going to leave. The more complete you are with yourself, the stronger that bond is going to be. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
So let's talk about sex. Play that song. Let's talk about sex. So, in many cultures around the world, they talk about sex not from a physical perspective, from an energetic perspective. When you have sex with somebody else, there's a massive exchange of energy. Literally, in some spiritual belief systems, they believe you literally will suck in the energy of somebody else and all their memory and everyone they've ever been with. So think about that. I was listening to a talk yesterday by this guru, and he was saying, if you're out there and you are sleeping around with lots and lots of people, there is no way you can find peace. You have so much unrest inside of you. But here's the deal, there's two ways to look at this. By the way, in other cultures as well, in Fatwa, I'm sure you probably have heard this before too, they say the moment of conception, that's what soul you're bringing down into the child. So if you're out, let's say, in a bar with some random person up here in the 7 billion, and you're drunk and you're just kind of unconscious, what kind of state are you in, and what kind of spirit are you bringing in? Right? So, connected to energy versus not. Oh, so, I'm like, what does that mean? What's this guy trying to say? I'm gonna have better notes on the board for you to remind me. So here's the deal. When you have a connection with the holy relationship, you're connected. Remember our energy before. Feeling that energy. Imagine doing that with every single person you interact with. How easy is it to know who you're supposed to hang out with, who you're not supposed to hang out with? Who you're supposed to get closer with, who you're not supposed to get closer with? How many times when we're younger we end up hanging out with somebody that's like dark and kind of broody, and we're like, oh, I'm going to try this out anyway. We have to feel the fire. We have to get burned. But as we get older and we develop this holy relationship, do we end up doing that? So here's the deal. If we can heal all these relationships and we get really connected with this holy relationship, when we do have sex and we agree to do it with somebody, who are we going to choose to do it with?
The higher self.
Right? The higher self, an event, So a lot of people in the spiritual path end up being celibate, don't they? Why is that? Because they were like, wow, I don't even need this anymore. But let's say, we're not all monks and at that level, but you're going to find people that are really, really close to you, that you love fully, that are the most close energy frequency to you. Right? And it's going to be extremely special, and the energy is going to be extremely safe. Okay? Now, if you have walls up here, and this is the energy that you're vibing in, what's your sex life going to be like?
Disconnected.
Disconnected. And we hear people like this who go around and they're kind of sex addicts. All they talk about is having sex. They're in this level. They're not connecting on a heart level. Right? It's all about the physical, not about the energy. And once you have an experience from this up, it's a completely different interaction altogether. So it's understanding, guys, these are energetic frequencies we're talking about. And then there's stuff, anyone heard of Tantra before, tantric work? What the whole thing is about. In our culture, it's kind of like, oh, shamed upon it because it's about sex. It's not about sex at all. It's about connecting. It's about this. Building your relationship with this before anything else happens. Make sense? Okay. So, how to have a healthy relationships? Number one, start with cause, which is the holy relationship. No matter what, you focus here on this at all times. So, I would say walking around, staying present in constant meditation, feeling your energy field at all times. Doing what you feel like doing. So checking in when your friends are saying, hey, we're all going here tonight. We're all going out to this bar tonight and we're going to have this meal. Do you want to come with us? Why do you say yes? Check in with yourself. Feel the vibration. Does the higher self want you to go? Or are you feeling tired? Or do you feel like you'll pull somewhere else? Or do we just sell out because all our friends are giving us peer pressure? Those kind of instances. All the time, check in with yourself. When you're going to eat food, pick it up, feel it out. When you're at a restaurant, go through the menu, feel every single choice on that menu, feel the vibration of it. Build this relationship. Is it going to happen overnight? No. But the more you practice it, the more you feel. If you get burned, you do something, it's saying, hey, don't do this, and you do it. How are you going to feel?
Not good.
Right? Not good. You're going to feel that. Just like, hey, if you sleep with somebody you shouldn't have slept with. How do you feel? If you tune in, you feel horrible. You feel sick. Some people feel nauseous. That's you getting burned by the fire. Should you beat yourself up?
No.
Love yourself. That same thing. Would your parent be mad at you, or would your parent not love you anymore? Would they coddle you and say, it's okay, I still love you?
I wouldn't tell. I wouldn't tell.
You're going to call mom down, hey, guess what I did last night? Okay. So start with the cause. Release all attachment to. This is the hardest one. If you have a spouse, if you have a loved one, we're attached. Okay, we're attached to them. How do you release attachment? Number one is you trust the higher self. So I think this is the art of all relationship. A lot of people, when we say you have to detach from somebody, when you detach, a lot of people put walls up and they say, whoa, I can't love that person. We're talking about when you detach but love fully. Imagine loving as deep as you can but having no attachment to someone or something. How do you do that? Number one is you have to trust this higher self that is leading you to somewhere. So you love someone as deep as possible, and if the energy all of a sudden is saying, wow, I need to break up with that person or not be with that person, you don't sit there and get in your head about it and say, well, I don't know, and have the doubts. What you do is you trust the flow, and you know it's going to bring you somewhere better. You know? That's why I love Brooke. That's exactly what she did. She sat there and she said, wow, Kevin, the energy is saying we need to do this. You know what I'm saying? She jumped right in. I had no choice. Okay, let's do this thing, right? But you jump in and you follow it and you trust. You know, wow, that means something better is planned for us. That's number one. And number two, staying present the whole time. Meaning, as soon as you get in your headspace, as soon as you get in your mind, you start judging things as good or bad, right or wrong. If you stay here now and you focus on your energy, I guarantee you no matter what's going on in your life, you can't be upset about it. You could be going through the worst set of turmoil right now, just check in with your energy right now. Feel it. Feels good. It's guiding you. It's guiding you. It's always guiding you. Okay? The craziest thing's been happening the past month or two. I feel like I'm doing less and less, and more magic is just happening all around us. So it's that same concept. The more we just not do stuff because we think we have to do stuff, the quieter we get, and we just trust that energy is pulling us in the right direction, you start to see miracles happen. And the last one, think about how we used to live hundreds of years ago. We lived in community, didn't we? Right? We used to have bigger families. We'd have bigger communities. What's the importance of community?
Support. Interdependence.
Interdependence. We live in a place now where we live in a house with a significant other and maybe we have kids and it's just a small little unit. If something happens to someone in that household, how does it feel? And by the way, relationships are our greatest teachers and greatest healers. How many relationships do you really have in that little 4 or 5 person place? Right? Now imagine living in a community of 20 people. We have that same amount of love spread amongst 20 people. Something happens to one person, doesn't affect the community nearly as much, does it? You're not as attached to that person, right?
There's always love.
There's always love spread throughout the entire community. You have kids, who's raising that child? Everybody. If you have 2 people raising a child, and the child, by the way, the children are absorbing all the energy in the household. So if you have a husband and a wife who really are bickering a lot, there's a lot of weird energy between them, what's that kid picking up? Now you live in a community of people. That child's not subject to that energy all the time. That child can go outside. That child can be amongst the community and see all different interaction, right? And I think this is where we're headed. There's a big movement for this now where people are joining back into communities again. It's what's missing in our life. It's why we feel so disconnected. Make sense? Awesome. Which leads us to Friday night. If you guys want community at my house, we're having a fire, and we're having a talk around the fire. We're going to have a philosophy talk and spiritual talk. Sound good?
No sex talk?
Sex?
I
I guarantee sex will come up, so I'm sure. Especially if you come, Sharon.
I'll be there.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions for me? Questions or comments? Or concerns? Nothing?
I do, I wanna say something.
Sure, if I want.
I mean, you touched on it just briefly, but I just think that it's something that I wanted to, bring out to people, to try to educate people about and learn more about myself, but that's conscious conception, you know. Having children is such a huge choice, and so many times people get pregnant accidentally. That's you know, you're making a new human being, you know. So to think about when you're in a relationship, when you're open to conceiving a child, to prepare yourselves, you know, spiritually, mentally, physically, with healthy diet, you know, so that you come into it being, you know, it's mostly on the woman, but I'd say that, you know, healthy sperm is really important too. So, just how do we spread that information in, you know, the greater community to help people think about that, you know?
Yeah, I think it's like having community. By the way, Fadwa, guys, she's an awesome midwife. So if you guys know anyone who's thinking about having a child or is having a child, Fadwa's the best, for sure. I think it's just having community like this and having these discussions and realizing the importance of this stuff. And like, we're a pretty conscious community. Go ahead, Alf, do you have a comment?
Yeah, what comes to mind is boundaries. Okay, if the energy is good, we conceive. If it's not love, if it's not such a high state of really wanting to have so much love for their child, don't do it.
Right.
It's not fair, because they come out amazing when that love is enough.
Well, it goes on to talk about, you know, if you really think about sex, how powerful is sex? It's the energy that brings life into this world. It's a really powerful thing.
Or misusing it.
Yeah, if you just misuse it and just kind of do it willy-nilly, like, what kind of world are we raising? Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, years ago I had this relationship counselor who had this theory that you, before having sex, you have like a 90-day period to develop the spiritual, the emotional, your physical interactions, and really get to know the person to the point that if you don't have sex right away, then you're in a much better place when you are in that position. And quite frankly, over the course of the 90 days, a lot of times you discover things that's not the right person.
Right.
You know, and so it really takes a lot of energy for somebody to spend that 90 days, I don't know, you know, if there's a frustration about not having sex, then probably that person's not the right person.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
If that's where you're at consciously and that person, there's a problem with it,
Right.
hey, there's the test right there.
Bye-bye.
Right? Awesome. Any other questions or comments? None? Hey, love you guys. Thank you so much, alright? See you guys hopefully Friday night. Oh, hey, by the way, Thursday night, Alex up here is going to be doing a talk about the power of thoughts. It's going to be awesome. Our Thursday night lectures have been growing. They're pretty amazing. So I hope to see you guys there as well, okay? Love you guys.